Hi Year 2. It's so hot in here today because this week we're going to do deserts. So, what sort of things shall we find in the deserts? Well, different animals and different plants adapt different things to live in such an extreme climate. So, deserts are the driest places on Earth. They get fewer than 25 centimetres of rain a year. Some deserts may get a lot of rain all at once, and then it might not rain again for months or even years. Creepy crawly desert creatures, bugs, insects and small flying creepy critters living in the desert are often venomous. That's to protect them from predators. They build elaborate homes to keep them sheltered from the heat, so underneath the sand or inside big termite mounds, things like that. Reptiles and snakes are really well suited to living in the desert because they can't keep their own heat. They get the heat from the sun. So reptiles and snakes are really good to live in the desert. Now, mammals have to do slightly different things. So the fennec fox has got really big, cute, fluffy ears. Isn't he a cutie? And he's got really furry paws. The ears are so that the blood can go around the ears and it can get rid of his heat that way. And he's got fluffy paws so that he can walk on the hot sand and not burn himself. Now that strange creature there is a red-necked ostrich. Doesn't he look funny with his big red neck and red legs? It's the biggest flightless bird in the whole world, and it's about 2 meters tall. It doesn't need to drink. It gets all its liquid from the food that it eats, the plants, and it can adjust its own body heat to keep himself cool. There we go. So, there's a couple of questions about the animals. First question is, are the bugs in the desert venomous and why? Pause the video, have a think. Well done, that's right, they're poisonous to protect themselves. Why are reptiles well suited to live in the desert? Pause the video, have a think. That's right, because they're cold-blooded animals and they get their body heat from the sun. What adaptations has the fennec fox got that help it with the desert heat? Pause the video. That's right, big fluffy ears and big fluffy paws so it can walk on hot sand. And the last one, what don't ostriches need to do that help them survive in the desert? Pause the video. That's right, they don't need to have a drink, they get all their liquid from what they eat. So, plants that live in the desert environment are very different to plants that live in our sort of environment. A big, really good way that certain plants have adapted is the cactus. Now, cactuses are very, very spiky leaves. So in England, you see big leaves on trees. In the desert, they have very small spikes, and you can put your finger on them and they hurt. So that stops them being eaten by animals, but it also stops them losing water through their leaves. They have really thick roots, which is where they store all their water, and some people, when they live in deserts, they dig cactuses up and drink the water out of their roots. That strange plant is called an elephant tree. Now, I don't think it looks much like an elephant, but the idea of it is it's got a really thick trunk, which is where it stores all its water. So when that rain happens, which is very rare, that tree stores all the water in the trunk and it can live quite happily for many months of the year without any water. And it also has very, very small star-shaped flowers. So the desert marigold looks very much like a normal marigold, but they have very, very thin, hairy leaves, and that helps them to reflect the ultraviolet light from the sun and keep the plant cooler. They also don't need a lot of water, so that makes them really well suited to survive in the extreme climate. And the desert sage, very similar to sage, the plant sage that you get in England, but it goes about 2 to 3 centimetres, and they're deep blue coloured purple flowers. The reason it grows so small is so that it has a smaller surface area and doesn't lose as much water. So, a couple of questions on plants. What don't desert plants get a lot of? Pause the video. That's right, water. Water is very, very sparse in desert plants. There isn't a lot of rain. What do desert plants get a lot of? The sun. That's right, they get a lot of sun and heat. What do cacti have instead of leaves? Small spikes. That's it, small spikes, well done. Where does the elephant tree keep its water? Pause the video. That's right, in its trunk, and it keeps it there for months and months and months, so that it doesn't need a lot of water. What colour is the desert marigold? That's right, it's yellow, beautiful yellow colour. And finally, what can the desert sage live without when it's set up? Water, that's right, once it's set up it needs very little water, if any. Well done. Now, the last thing, what I'd like you to do is write an article for the National Geographic magazine. You're reporting on desert regions of the world and the animals and plants that live there. You must include information about 2 types of animal and how they've adapted to the desert habitat, and 2 types of plant and how they've adapted. You can use the ones that I've shown you, or you can have a look on Google and find your own. And also draw a picture. You could also try putting it in the format of a magazine article. So like a magazine that you'd read at home, you could put it into that sort of format. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Good luck.